So over the past little while, I have created a couple of videos where I've asked the question of what it would be like if legendary Pokemon groups got new members. And I've created designs of my own of what new members of these groups could look like. These videos have been a ton of fun to put together, and you guys have really seemed to enjoy them as well and shown them a lot of love, which I really appreciate, so thank you so much for that. And with that being said, we of course have got to keep things going. So I am here today to once again ask this question of what it would be like if more legendary Pokemon groups got new members, and I've created a few designs to show you guys what these hypothetical new members could look like. So let's go ahead and get into it. So today's legendary Fakemon have quite literally been made possible thanks in part to today's amazing sponsor, Manscaped. Point blank, Manscaped puts out amazing products that help you to groom yourself up and look and feel your best. I use them every day myself and don't plan on stopping anytime soon because I genuinely love them. Speaking of things coming up soon though, Father's Day is on the horizon, and a gift from Manscaped would be a great gift to get the dad, husband, or father in your life. For example, they've got the Beard Hedger Razor for trimming your beard, and this thing has honestly improved my personal beard grooming and styling so much, so I can definitely recommend it. And you've also got the classic Lawnmower 4.0 all-purpose trimmer and the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear hair trimmer. All of these razors are cordless, waterproof, easy to charge, and come equipped with skin-safe technology to prevent unnecessary nicks and cuts. And you can even get the lawnmower and weed whacker trimmers together as a part of the Performance Package 4.0. So if you need something to get dad this Father's Day, go ahead and grab any one of these products with the link in the description below. And when you use code HoopsVGM at checkout, you're also going to get 20% off plus free shipping. And it even supports the channel when you place an order. So be sure to check that out, and thanks as always to Manscaped for their support. Okay, so I've got a couple of things to mention here really quick before we get into the Pokemon. First thing is that all of the artwork of the designs you're going to see in this video were drawn by my good friend Trevenart, and he does amazing work, so be sure to check him out with the links in the description. Second is that in the past two videos that I have done on this topic, I have focused on legendary Pokemon trios, but today I thought I would spice things up a bit and focus on legendary Pokemon duos instead, which should provide a nice change of pace and create some new possibilities in terms of the designs we are going to create. And with that said, we are going to begin in the Kanto region with the duo of Mew and Mewtwo. Now, Mew and Mewtwo aren't necessarily a traditional Pokemon duo or Pokemon group, if you will, but they are obviously very closely connected together, and therefore I thought it would be fun to create a third member of this classic Pokemon duo. And this one, in terms of who that third member would be, is kind of an obvious choice because it's an idea that many fans have had and many people have had ever since they were kids on the playground talking about this kind of stuff, and that is none other than Mewthree. The idea of a Mewthree has been floated around for basically as long as the franchise and these Pokemon have been around, and honestly, that's because it would be a really cool concept. It's really the only way you could go for a new Mewtwo-related Pokemon like this, and this is the design that I have come up with for my own interpretation of a Mewthree. This Pokemon, just like Mew and Mewtwo, is still a pure psychic type, but the idea behind its design is that it's basically supposed to be a more enhanced version of Mew and a refinement of the concept that was Mewtwo. Basically, it's meant to clone Mew, improve upon it, while also refining some of the things that went awry with Mewtwo, like its rageful tendencies. Basically, it's just trying to perfect Mewtwo as a Pokemon and as a living thing. And this is part of the reason for why it looks the way it does, because you may have noticed that it has somewhat of a visual similarity to Mega Mewtwo Y, and this is sort of a loose homage to the fact that this is trying to improve upon Mew's design and become that perfect specimen of a Pokemon, similar to the way that Mega Evolution taps into the true potential of these Pokemon and brings out their true, most powerful forms, if you will. The other thing you can see about this design as well is that it's kind of a combination size-wise between Mew and Mewtwo. It definitely has some Mewtwo-like qualities to it, but overall is more small and diminutive like Mew is. And this is meant to pound home that idea that this Pokemon is trying to be the ultimate improvement on both of those Pokemon. It's taking what worked with Mewtwo, but bringing it into an organism that is more true to what Mew is as a Pokemon, and trying to make this third attempt the charm when it comes to creating the ultimate Pokemon life form. And personally, I think that is a really cool concept, and it's a reason why Mewthree as an idea, in my opinion, could definitely be explored someday, and I think it would be amazing if it actually was. Our next legendary duo comes just one generation later in the Johto games, and it is one of the most iconic pairs of legendary Pokemon of all time, and of course is none other than Lugia and Ho-Oh. Now these two, unlike Mew and Mewtwo, are more of a true legendary duo, where they not only represent Pokemon Gold and Silver as games, but are truly meant to sort of be counterparts to one another, in the same way that other legendary duos and trios from future games would eventually do the same thing and sort of establish this concept. So what would it be like if there was a third member to such an iconic group of legendary Pokemon? Well, if that were to ever be an actual thing, it might look something like this. I would like you guys to meet Zakoa. Zakoa is my interpretation of what it could be like if we ever did get a third member of the Tower Duo. Now, the name of this group of Pokemon, the Tower Duo, is actually pretty important, because of course, they each reside or resided in one of the towers of the Johto region, with Ho-Oh residing atop the Bell Tower in Ecruteak City, and Lugia at one time, before it was burned down, residing atop the Brass Tower. Basically what this means is that if we were ever going to get a third member of this duo, it would need to probably be associated with a tower of its own. And that is why Zakoa as a concept, in my opinion, is so perfect, because there is actually a third tower within the lore of Johto that existed at one point. We learn in the games from the director of the radio tower that where the radio tower now stands in Goldenrod City was once the site of another tower similar to the Bell and Brass towers, but it was torn down in order to build the radio tower that we see in the current day. This creates the perfect opportunity for a scenario where a third legendary Pokemon to go alongside Lugia and Ho-Oh could have once existed and that resided in this tower that was torn down. However, once it was torn down, it flew away and has never been seen since. And if a Pokemon like this was ever going to be introduced in a future game, that would be the perfect excuse why it hasn't appeared in all this time. Additionally, due to what Lugia and Ho-Oh represent as Pokemon, it also creates the perfect opportunity for a Pokemon like Zakoa to exist. Because first and foremost, we know that Lugia and Ho-Oh represent the colors/metals of silver and gold, and therefore I have designed Zakoa to represent the color/metal of bronze. Furthermore, Lugia and Ho-Oh also represent the sea and the sky respectively, which means that a Pokemon like Zakoa could come right in the middle of that and represent the land, which is what I have designed Zakoa to do. As such, that makes Zakoa a ground-type Pokemon, and then, just like Lugia and Ho-Oh, is also part flying-type, making for a ground-flying-type combination. And this ground flying typing that I ended up coming to for Zakoa is what ended up being the inspiration for its main inspiration as a Pokemon as well. Because when I thought of something that could be ground-based but also have the flying type, there was one thing that came to my mind, and that was the feathered serpent of Aztec folklore, aka the mythical Quetzalcoatl. And since the Quetzalcoatl is a god-like figure itself, it works perfectly as the inspiration for a legendary Pokemon. So personally, I feel like Zakoa came together absolutely perfectly, and convinced me that it would be amazing to actually see a third member of the Tower Duo eventually become a real thing. Finally, when it came to Zakoa's name, I wanted something that basically fit in with Lugia and Ho-Oh, in the sense that they have names that are relatively short and relatively simple, and also have simple origins, but are also ambiguous in terms of their origins and have a unique sound to them. I feel like the name Zakoa hits all of those beats pretty well, and the way that I came up with it was basically by fragmenting and corrupting just a little bit the term Quetzalcoatl, as you'll find all of the letters that make up the name Zakoa within the term of Quetzalcoatl. So again, while this is a thing that probably will never ever happen officially, I feel like Zakoa makes a pretty good case for why it could legitimately happen, and why it would be pretty cool if it ever did. There is one more legendary duo that we have to focus on today, and the one that we are going to focus on to round out this video is none other than the lunar duo of Cresselia and Darkrai. This duo of legendary and mythical Pokemon in Darkrai's case are pretty iconic, not only for their designs and what they do within the Sinnoh games, but also for their concepts and what they represent. As I said, they are known as the Lunar Duo, and by and large, they represent the concept of dreams. Obviously, Darkrai is synonymous with the concept of nightmares, and Cresselia, on the other side of that, represents more pleasant dreams. And thinking about this title of the Lunar Duo that these two Pokemon have and the concepts that they carry is what ultimately led me to create this third hypothetical member of their group, which I call Solarios. Solarios is a pure Fire-type Pokemon, and if you couldn't tell, it is heavily themed around the sun. The reason for this is actually for a couple reasons, because as I said, Cresselia and Darkrai are known as the Lunar Duo, so I felt like having something that was sun-themed as a kind of counterpart and flip side of that would work well, and I also thought it worked well because Solarios represents the concept of daydreams, just like Cresselia and Darkrai represent their own respective sides of the concept of dreams as well. I thought that this was a pretty cool way of making sure that this Pokemon stayed in line with the themes of the Lunar Duo instead of just making a third Pokemon and saying that it belongs there for some reason. In my opinion, if you're gonna create a legendary Pokemon and one that belongs with other legendary Pokemon, it's gotta be in sync and tie together really well. And personally, I feel like this ties together really well with what Cresselia and Darkrai represent. I also wanted to give it that mystical, deity, ambiguous-like look that both Darkrai and Cresselia have. You can kinda tell what they are, but they're also just really ambiguous in terms of their origins. They have that mystical look to them that really makes them legendary Pokemon, and I just wanted to try and capture that. And Trevenart did an amazing job of doing just that with the design he helped me create. Naturally, as you may have expected, its fire typing also comes from its sun and daydream theming, and when it comes to the name, Solarios, I looked to the names and the etymology of Cresselia and Darkrai to try and come up with something that followed that same sort of path. And since in Cresselia's case, it is named after the crescent moon and quite possibly the Greek goddess of the moon, Selene, I decided to do the same sort of thing with Solarios' name, as it comes from solar or sol as in the sun, and Helios, who is the Greek god of the sun. All things considered, I feel like this one came together pretty well as well, and just like the other two Pokemon we have showcased today, I feel like it shows how there is a real legitimate opportunity for Pokemon to do something like this and bring in new members for these legendary Pokemon groups. And obviously, when you're talking about legendary Pokemon and new Pokemon related to them that are coming into the picture, that just opens up a whole huge world of possibilities for what could happen in terms of the lore, in terms of the story of these Pokemon, and I feel like there's just so much potential there. So it's personally something that I would really love to see with either these sorts of designs or any other kind of designs in general. What do you guys think about this though? Do you like the concept? Do you like these designs? Do you like where I'm coming from? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and also let me know any other ideas you might have for Pokemon like this as well. And be sure to subscribe for more if you're new. With that said, I'll be back with another new video very soon as well, and until then, as always, thank you guys so much for watching this one. I really and truly appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.